Alright, I finally got to my Spellbreaker guide healer support for World vs. World. You saw blue coming up left side of the screen, so we're going to come down and surprise him. I'm going to drop stability first, right where I think we're going to be. And so for the first part, if you've seen any of my other guides, I just like to do some general chat while you watch the action, watch what I'm doing. I may explain some while we go, I may not. One thing I do want to talk about in the beginning before we get to the build section, which I usually put in the middle of the videos, is that I will lay this out in the guide. And one thing I didn't think of till I was making this guide is everybody's play style is different. Okay, so this guide, don't go out there and try and play like me unless you are aggressive like I am. This is gonna, I mean you can, but this is gonna help you learn how to use this build. And from here, we were fighting and then more blues came. That's kind of what we're running away. But you see me back here, I don't like leaving anybody behind, if you've seen it in my other videos, so I'm going to do my best to help them escape alive. I also don't like letting people run away either, but that's why I went back, because you know I'm a big fan of Leaves No Hero Behind, LNHB. I take that title seriously. Unfortunately, I think this guy back there is going to get left behind, but I did at least get one person out alive. So getting back to what I was saying, find your own strategy that works for you. I'm a very aggressive player. I come from a background of raids. I've been doing World versus World, you know, really more consistently over the last year. This was cool that people had ganked our end players. They warned us, and so we're going to come up, and we're not going to do as they expect. We're actually going to run further up the stairs behind them to get above them. They wasted their bomb below us, and now we're going to come down, and it's going to make it easier for me to drop my bubble. So I drop stability first, bubbles, so it's less likely I'll be CC'd. And so just think about that. Any of the guides you watch, it may not work for you the way I play it, but just going through some of this, seeing how I do stuff may give you ideas, may help you understand why you weapon swap so much or use different burst skills at which time, because we go through the traits. That's the most important. Once you understand how the traits work together with the skill sets and positioning, it makes more sense. This was cool. We had someone down here, so I'm going to try and res them. That red team's there. I dropped my banner thinking I'd have more time to res, but I didn't. But we're going to veil out and come down and just surprise these guys. And shazam! Here we go. Okay, here's the hard part about bubble. See, I get interrupted. Spell break, a stun break, stun break. Okay, and then here we go. I'm going to drop it now because I have quickness. And it goes up a lot faster. And there are many different sources that give you quickness. You get it from one of your bros or peeps in your squad. The other thing that gives it to you is when you, if you look, you'll see from the traits later, certain skills or actions that do it. I can tell you Warhorn 4 gives it to you. But if you use F2, that gives you a brief burst of quickness at times, and that's when you want it. That's why when you do your normal rotation, you want to use F2 first, and then drop. You can see I have quickness again on my bar, and it keeps going every time you swap through your burst skills. It gives you a little bit of quickness, and so that helps, or the F2 anyway. That helps you have speed to drop that bubble, because a second and a half doesn't seem like a whole lot of time, but it is when you're getting blasted. This was funny. So we did a little staring contest and peekaboo there. I'm going to shoot to the back line because I want to drop the bubble behind them, so I'm going to push back into it. And you can't see the bubble, but I dropped it because my graphics are low. There it is. Can't wait till I get my new rig eventually, and then I'll be able to see everything and actually not have my tune look nice to me like it does to you guys with the armor and stuff. But the cosmetics are severely muted, but it helps with lag. I'm sure you understand, especially if you roam and want to win fights, or even want to stay alive in this kind of mess. But the thing I like about this build is this is a frontline healer. Look at how much you can throw yourself into the mess and still stay alive. Now that depends on using your skills appropriately. But most of the time, not always, I can be one of the last people standing if we do lose a fight. But and it's not because of me, it's just because the build is pretty tanky, and that's what I love about it. It has a lot of condition removal. Oh, see blues behind us. So no rest for the weary. We're going to come over here. They're going to veil towards us. We're going to run a veil backwards and circle around. Brilliant move by our commander. So they're going to waste their bomb based on where we're standing. They think we're going to go back and run right into it. So you see their bomb is all there. We're going to go all the way around it. I'm going to come in. My bubble's on cooldown, so we're going to start with pulls. And I'm going to circle around to the outside, get behind him. I'm not going to let him go away. I'm going to drop my boon rip. Remember, that removes conditions, and also not removes conditions, removes boons from everybody around them too. So I kind of love that stuff. You can see a lot too. I use my dagger skills when I weapon swap because they're just great like that. Especially dagger F1, it removes 3 boons off your target. Dagger 2 will slow them. Dagger 3 removes boons, so that's cool. So here we had a blue blob, and we are gonna go right after these guys. And after this battle, we're gonna talk about the build. And I dropped that berry a little early, but some people ran into it, the bubble. And I always like to use pulls after the bubble if I have it on cooldown because they're less likely to have stability. And you see, once you get the bubble on them, they're going down. And not everybody runs the boon build, but it's still nice to have boon strip because they have some here or there. The boon balls are really the ones that are challenging, but you just take them a piece at a time. I have my plans for an ideal squad that I would like to run if I was ever to organize one specifically, other than just, you know, pugging it a little bit, but that is what it is. That's a secret, unless you're in my squad. Alright, so we're going to clean up these downs, and then we're going to get to the next part of the video. Remember, stay tuned after because we have more fights. Alright, it's that time. Let's talk about the build. Okay, so let's talk about equipment first. As always, I am running minstrels with runes of the monk, minstrels across all trinkets, and of course minstrels on my weapon sets. And my relic is Relic of the Flock. You grant buried yourself nearby allies after you use a healing skill. Okay, and then weapons, I'm using staff, and then offset is going to be dagger, warhorn. Okay, so for staff, the sigils we're looking at is superior sigil of nullification and superior sigil of transference. So nullification, of course, removes boons when you flank from the flank, and there's a 5-second cooldown. So that's actually pretty low. You can constantly do stuff, especially when you're in the thick of the battle. And for this one, sigil of life, that's just going to add bonus healing for each peeps you kill. And transference healing to other allies is increased by 10%. Okay, so that is armor and such. Let's talk about traits. So we have tactics, discipline, and spellbreaker. And of course this one is very, very key. A lot of stuff hinges on this, so just pay specific attention to this trait. Marching orders periodically gain soldiers' focus. Hitting with a burst skill expends soldiers' focus to grant might to nearby allies. Okay, so this gives you, whenever you exercise it, healing, quickness, might, and you see the interval is 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds that will refresh. But you can see later we can shorten that time. We'll talk about that in a second. So soldiers' focus heals affected allies and grants them protection. Okay, so there's the healing. And then deal increased strike damage for every boon on you. That's fine. Every time, and shake it off, shrug it off. Every time you use a healing skill, you remove a condition from an ally and it heals them. Okay, applying might to an ally heals you, so every time you get might from soldier's focus and some of these other things that give you might, you get a little bit of healing. Not a lot, but every little bit helps, especially when you're in the thick of it. Okay, martial cadence. Soldier's focus grants boons to affected allies and removes conditions from them. Refresh soldier's focus when you swap weapons. And you get a little stability and removes a condition. So this is really cool. So let's say I use a burst skill. I get the benefits from this, so it goes away. It's on cooldown for 10 seconds. You swap weapons and it refreshes immediately, and then by the time you swap weapons again, so every time you swap weapons, basically this is going to refresh your soldier's focus. Okay. Versatile Rage, gain adrenaline weapon swap, that is useful. Stalwart Focus, increase incoming healing effectiveness and healing to other allies. So that helps you be tanky and helps you keep your peeps standing and fighting. Weapon swapping recharges faster, again, which plays into this. See the 4 to 5 seconds, so that's going to refresh each time. Typically depends when you use your burst skill. I try to use it as soon as I swap weapons. And we'll talk about that soon. You've seen some fights, and of course we're going to go over more fight. You can see some more fighting after, where I still talk about some more stuff of why I do what I do. Okay, versatile power. Gain might on weapon swap. Burst skills gain reduced recharge. Again, that's important. Ties in with all these other traits. Heightened focus. Gain quickness and recharge burst skills when you strike a foe that's below the health threshold. You also gain outgoing healing. This is effective anytime you can get a little bit of quickness from some of the things that you do in here, we'll talk about later, will help this bad boy cast a lot faster, because 1.5 seconds is not a long time until you're in the thick of it and people are trying to push, pull, float, sink, CCU, whatever, and you get interrupted, or the spell takes longer to cast and you realize you have cancel casting or you have to dodge or something. So that is pretty crucial. Alright. Spellbreaker's Conviction, you get full counter, absorb the next attack against you, and counterattack all foes around you. Foes struck by the counter interrupted. This is important too, and you're going to see why as we go along this trait line. They kind of feed together well, and that's your F2 skill. Okay. No escape. Dazes and stuns inflict immobilize. That's always nice. Dazes, stuns, pulls, knockdowns, knockbacks, and launches remove boons. So, for instance, if this stuns, of course, you get that boon removal in addition. Removing boons from a foe deals damage and gives you adrenaline. That's always nice. It keeps these burst bars full. Attacker's insight. Gain insight when disabling foes or removing boons. Full counter refreshes all burst skills on hit. And that is pretty cool. And here we go. Enchantment Collapse. This is important. Removing a boon from a foe causes all nearby foes to lose additional boons. That's why all of this kind of complements that with not only your full counter but everything else as well. So let's look at your skills. You've got Staff. Third auto attack gives you a little bit of healing. That's great for when you're on Lords and just trying to keep people up before you're expecting a charge from opponents, such as in Stone Mist Castle or something. Alright, this is good. You get some healing, some might, some fury, adrenaline. That's a good way to start there, adrenaline if you need to. This one is great because your next, for 5 seconds, your next 3 attacks are unblockable in addition to getting some healing, 4K, protection, and Aegis. This is very good if you can plan it to use before you use this next one, Snap Pull, which is a pull. So that makes that attack unblockable, so it'll go right through the Aegis. They still may be able to have stability, which will counter it, but it helps. And then, of course, Bullet Catcher. Focus your mind on the battle, blocking incoming attacks. After activating the skill, Defiant Roar becomes available for short duration. Blocking attacks empowers Defiant Roar. So 2 seconds you can block all kinds of attacks. And then on the bottom you unleash Defiant Roar, so you're going to heal nearby allies and grant them resolution, which reduces incoming damage by 33%. And that is really cool. Okay, let's look at the other weapon set. So Dagger. Auto attacks are fine. I don't really focus so much on that because it's a heal build, but this one I use to range, to close the range on people. You see me use it a lot. I usually do 2 followed up by 3, or 1 followed up by 3, and let's talk about these in a second. So 2 slows them and gets you closer, gives you a bit of a burst. 3 dazes a target. Remember, your daze or stun a target, they're losing boons, and then with that trait people around them lose boons, so that's kind of cool. This is great, gives you some quickness, removes movement impairing conditions, and then this one gives you great barrier, 4K, vigor, and removes conditions as well. And you've seen so far as we fight, you look at my arc DPS, I have it set to Condi Cleanse. It's not as good as like an Elementalist or like a Scrapper may be, but mid-range it's actually not bad. It usually does up to about 50% or so of what you're getting from other support builds. However, it brings a lot of stuff with Boon Rip, a little bit of stability. I mean, it covers a lot of it, but mostly this is for Boon Rip and some support healing. Okay, now let's talk about these. Breaching Strike. Strike your target, remove boons. Deal more damage if your target has no boons. So you can move 3 boons. So I like to do this or this one probably in succession before I do the stun. It just helps break the boons down. And this one also, absorb the next attack against you and counterattack all foes around you. Foes struck by the counter attack are interrupted again. That also steals more boons. Wonderful. Okay, support skills. You could use whatever healing you want. I like this one. It's pretty low. You get some adrenaline from it. Refills your endurance. And also, again, is going to give them some barrier. And if you want to spam that barrier, I didn't check the cooldown, but you could probably go on something if there's something that's lower cooldown, that might be a benefit as well. And I got this build again from Guildjet. I kind of tweak some things sometimes. This right here, strike foes around you and remove their boons, deal more damage to foes that lose a boon. So 1 boon but up to 5 targets, and that's really cool. And we'll come back to this one. This is one I might swap out sometimes if I need to, and I'll explain that in a second. So this gives you resolution, stability, and resistance. Resistance, remember, non-damaging conditions are ineffective, so mobs don't work during that 2 1/4 seconds. But you get 7 seconds, and you get super speed. You get 7 seconds of stability, which is pretty nice. So 1/3 of the time you can have stability. But this one you have to plant where you think you're going to go or where you're going to be at. This one, good stun breaker and cure 4 condies up to everybody, so that's kind of nice. And you see I had to move where they were going to like disconnect me. Okay, so, and here's, I'll use this skill. Here is the bubble. Create an area of calm in which foes are reduced to have incoming boon duration, lose boons every interval. It also blocks missiles, so this is really nice. This can be hard to place, and if you're in a good subgroup that has good stability, that's not an issue. But if stability becomes a problem, sometimes I'll swap this out with Doliac Signet. So you get 9 seconds that you can pop on the fly of 10 stacks of stability, so that is also an option. But I really like this one better if you can manage it. So that is it on the build. So let's get back to the action. Alright, now we're going to talk, I'm going to try and talk more about why I'm using which skills and at what time. Again, as I mentioned before, if I can, I like to use skill 3 before skill 4. Ideally even 2 and 3. And right here we did an amazing job on our Mesmer commander setting up this portal bomb to surprise these guys. Which should come down over the top. I'm going to get stunned, floated on my bubble, so I miss it. We're going to use, again, mobility is huge. Now I have Aegis, so I can drop this and watch them all melt under there. Just their boons melt off, and we drop a lot of damage. So that's another key thing about this build. Remember, every time you use a staff 3, it gives you mobility if you need to get far, but it also gives you Aegis and unblockable, and that'll also give you some time to ensure you get your bubble up. This guy's going to port because it's a Mesmer. There he is, but he didn't get away. Again, staff mobility, look at that. I love being on a burst of speed. That's why I love Spear on Guardian. That's why Thief is my favorite. Although Willbender you would think would be mine because it moves better. But either way, that's a different story. So right here, what we're going to do is we want to go in and pull. So I'm going to use Snap Pull first after I use my stability from Banner. And then I'm going to drop the bubble, trying to get some pulls into the bubble, or they're going to chase us into it. And we already got some downs. So planning is cool too, and your commander usually call for it. If he doesn't, just when you get used to them, if you're with a guild, you'll know how they're going to think. If you're with like a rando pug group or joining just a commander you're unfamiliar with, you just got to figure that out as well. Okay, I'm always using skill 7, the boon rip, AoE boon rip, off cooldown when I'm in the middle, and same thing with F2, because remember, not only does it keep you safe with a block and give you stability and such, it also removes boons and stuns them. So that is huge. And we got another couple bubbles off. We were running dual Spellbreakers, so that was kind of good. I'm not going to catch that Thief, so we'll leave that alone. Okay, this was cool. So at this point, we were kind of on our own. Most of our squad and the commander was in EBG, but there was a queue there. So I hate sitting around, so me and a bunch of the peeps, we just came down, decided to take a tower, and we found some fights. So, bubble right there. I want to get rid of these guys quick, and I like to get rid of that. And this is a pretty good battle right in the base of the tower. We want to clear this out before we go to the Lord. So again, skill 2. I'm going to use F1 as it comes off to get rid of boons. And again, that's also a gap closer. Have this necro here, but they're going to make it out the door, and that's fine. Good riddance. But we're not done yet. I see one of my peeps getting low health. I'm going to use staff skill 3 to get to them for some healing, and 2, see, it brought his health up and also damaged that guy, so that's always good. Again, it's not a lot of damage, but every little bit helps. And you'll see on this build, I often down people out that have a sliver of health because I can use some of the skills to do just enough damage. Okay, we're going to go down and push these guys back out. use a pull. Use skill 2. See, I got rid of some of his boons, and he's down. And I'm going to take out this other guy if we can. Okay, see skill 2, 3 to interrupt. 4 and 5 I'll use off a cooldown just to keep things clean. And look at that, removing boons. Okay, this is our bag farm, South Camp. We just came down here, saw there's contested, and this is just going to be crazy. So I'll try and walk you through it. So you saw I closed the gap, skill 3, he's down. And I'm going to use the bubble, and that was really kind of a waste. I thought they'd be running through it, but so bad placement on me. Think about that when you play stuff. Sometimes I do get caught up in muscle memory just spamming through a rotation. So staff is good. Use that to block stuff and to give us the boons from that. Staff 1 heal. And I always like to use a heal on staff if I can before I weapon swap, because they're going to just refresh as soon as I weapon swap. So that always kind of gives you an extra. So you get healing before you leave, 1 burst of healing, make sure everybody's topped off before you go to weapon set. You get some stuff from Warhorn for sure. So that's why I do that as well. And of course, I was going to leave him there, but nobody else was taking him out. I'd rather be healing my peeps. But I don't want this guy rezzing. Alright, so now, again, skill 3 gets me back to the battle. And I'm going to come around this side and pull him. I see him circling around, so we're not letting them get away. See how I can put him down even though I'm a healer? That helps, although I did have a little bit of help there too. And I'm going to use skill, F2, remove boons, and I use 4 and 5 and 1, F1 rather, because remember that removes up to 3 boons. Ellie's are boon factories, so I love using this build because eventually it puts all their stuff on cooldown and they got nothing to show for it. Okay, F2 again. And F2, sometimes they don't block you, so you can run into like any kind of AoE or anything, even though you're not like specifically being targeted. That's where that comes in handy. So it's almost always going to work. Okay, here comes the bubble, and they're running through it, so that helps. He's just kind of hanging out in it. That's the Virtuoso, and I think the Ellie ran through it. But you can see there's no wasted skills here. I use every single skill I get. And that's why I think this is a really well-balanced build, because there's a lot of boon removal that you can do, whether it's single target or multi-target or both. Well, of course it'd be both if it's multi. Again, you can use F2, walk in the AoE, and it's going to go right off, and I just strip boons from both those guys and a couple guys around them. So that is great. Again, I'm going to use staff 1, and then weapon swap in a second once I use skill 5, and I think I'm going to use a pull. The hard part about pulls though on this, the snap pull skill 4, is you see it's that triangle wedge shape. You got to make sure you're facing them, and a lot of times I end up turning off a bit, so just watch out for that one as well. Here's my F1, remove boons. 4, 5, F2. He attacked me good, we stripped some more boons out of them. F1, F5 for barrier. 3 for Aegis, healing. We're going to do 4 for a pull. And if you find yourself disabled like I was there for a second, obviously your Shake It Off skill 9 will help with that. Okay, this was very fun. This was so most of my you see I still have people in my party. Most of them were in EBG, and we were just bag farming South Camp. This was fun. And this guild right here, I really have this thing about people that put these kind of names on their guilds. It kind of gives me a lot of satisfaction when you end up defeating them, especially when I'm roaming, fighting them 1v1 or even sometimes 1v multiple, and you put them all down. Like, just makes me feel better, I guess. Maybe I'm shallow, who knows, but very gratifying. Okay, here's where I thought we were cleaned up, so we're going to finish this guy off, and love the pulls. See his boons come off when I spam that AoE boon removal, boon strip. So we finished this guy, and I went over to the nodes, and then I turn around and 3 more blues rolled in, and here we go. I'm just going to cut to that. There they are. So it wasn't more than like 10 seconds. And they're back in. So this was great. This is also, I left this in here because yes, this is good for big groups, but this is also good for small groups. And I would say for big groups, you really wouldn't want to use just this in your subgroup as the only healer, because you won't be able to stand up. This goes well with a firebrand or anybody else that does any healing, especially like a Tempest or even a Scrapper or whatevs. But small group, as a standalone healer, yeah, this thing does great. I mean, we were kind of outnumbered at certain points with the way these guys kept running in, and we still won some of these, so that was kind of nice. But that was a good run. I hope this guide is helpful, and thank you for watching and supporting. You can see, yeah, I was just letting my commander know we were bag farming at South Camp. That's all, folks. Hope this is helpful. Hope you have a most excellent day.